Welcome back to The Working Lunch. I'm Jack Crumley. We are in the guest segment of the show. It's a fun Friday show, and I am joined by Kathie Hickey, who is the founder, co-founder, co-owner of Streetside Brewery in Columbia, Tusculum. One of my favorite breweries in town, if I'm being honest with you. Kathie, I'm glad to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
You and I met just about a week ago, sitting in lawn chairs in the front yard of a home in Columbia, Tusculum, right along Eastern Avenue. Yeah. And we got to talking, and I found out that you were one of the owners of Streetside. And I feel like that is such a microcosm of the way businesses in that neighborhood operate. The idea of just casually hanging out with people, maybe having a beer in a lawn chair, and then striking up a conversation. There's such a community vibe to that I feel like really is so representative of the neighborhood.
Yeah, for sure. That is how so many of the people in the neighborhood support the businesses. And that was funny. I normally don't. When our mutual friend invited me over, I normally don't stop on my way home because sometimes it can mean trouble for the next day. So, but that was great. It was meant to be. So
it was meant to be, and I really have enjoyed what you guys are doing. Been stopping by Streetside since you guys opened. Congratulations on 10 years, by the way.
Thank you.
What got you motivated to start the brewery in the first place?
So I've got to be honest, I was not motivated to start the brewery at all. It was my husband and my son. Mm-hmm. My husband just wanted to open a beer bar on the east side, similar to Half Cut, if you've ever been there. It was an OTR a long time ago. He's going to do that in his retirement, and then he and my son started home brewing, and they got better and better at it. And then they thought, wow, when we open this little this little beer bar, why don't we have a little system?
Yeah.
And so that's how it hit.
So the idea was starting very small.
It was. Our original business plan is ridiculous. It was very small. It actually involved having the brewers work the bar as well. Okay. So once they kind of got that in their heads, it just kind of took off. The system is. I mean, we're a microbrewery, but the system is not a small system.
Well, you guys talk on your website about the way that this all got engineered, and the tap equipment, or not the tap equipment, the brewing equipment specifically was designed to a specific way that your son wanted it. He had like some formal schooling in beer brewing?
Yes, he went to Brew Lab in Sunderland, England.
Good grief.
And it's one of the issues with that, there's a great program also in Germany, but the downfall of that was that Garrett doesn't speak German.
Okay.
So he went to the one in England. And when he came home from that, he'd spent several months there. He went in, toured different breweries in Belgium, the Netherlands, I think, went to Ireland, and got to kind of guest brew there. He definitely had an idea of what he wanted when we came back.
Yeah, so I mean, this was something, this is a big project for him, and even though the idea was just to start it small?
Yeah.
Well, so then how do things snowball from there then?
So it just kind of started that I love hospitality. That was always my background. I took 20-some years off to raise kids. So I did eventually say, okay, I'll run the front of house, you guys do the back, and we all do have our areas. My husband is the CFO, and he's in charge of also changing every light bulb in the building.
Well, that's a normal CFO responsibility, sure.
And then Garrett runs the brewery. He's the guy that writes the recipes and orders brews. He does it all. He's kind of the mastermind behind everything. Mm-hmm. So it just kind of snowballed then into, we started looking for a spot. We were doing site searching. During that time, Garrett was out of town working for a minor league baseball team in Erie, PA.
Okay.
And that's where I grew up in Erie. Garrett was born there. So he finally did come back, and we chose the former site of the East End Cafe. Yeah. And unfortunately, there was a fire there in 2010. Okay. We purchased it in 2015. And we had to tear it down because of the damage, and then they just kind of went from there. When that, we knew how much space we had, so we went to Portland Kettle Works, and we were really, really adamant about having our equipment made in the United States.
You're blowing up.
I'm assuming that,
They must be watching the show.
I know. I think they are. Yeah.
We're not doing the call-in segment till after the break.
I wanted notes just in case, like you stumped me or something.
Oh, come on. You know what you're talking about. This is a family business.
So, so we went out to Portland. That's where we got our original 15-barrel tanks, brew house, everything, and we have purchased from them, as we've gotten bigger. We have, more bright tanks now. We have a 30-barrel fermenter.
What was it like to get things started, though? Because you told me that you and your husband and your son you all kicked in like the same amount of money to be equal partners in this.
Yeah.
Was there ever a discussion or hesitation about, hey, we're family, but now we're starting a business, and that's a whole different dynamic?
It is. I grew up my father was an entrepreneur, so I grew up in a family business, so I had that modeled for me. And actually, Brian, at the time, he worked for our family business for 30. He did just retire, sort of. He worked for our family business for 30-some years. So we're used to working with family and dealing with, kind of just the whole. It's kind of hard because people, family knows how to push each other's buttons. So, we try really hard not to do that.
That's a good policy.
And we also try really hard to, kind of stay in our own lane. There's certain things that we're good at. Like, I would never go downstairs and say anything about a beer that, I wouldn't look at a recipe and say, oh, I don't know about that hop. And Garrett would say, yeah, you're right, you don't know about that hop. So, So
is that a lot of pressure for you, though? Because now you're if you're handling front of house and the tap room that's going on there, your son may be coming up with the recipes and brewing the beer, but, you're kind of the face of the operation a little bit, right? You're the one that's interacting with customers and greeting people as they come and go?
Yes. I would say I am probably the one that does that the most. Garrett is, if you've been to our brewery, you can overlook the brewing area, so people can see Garrett and James and. They can see all of those guys working. Steve, our production manager. Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
that's Garrett, folks. James, and Steve.
Okay, and that's Garrett on the right.
Yes. So they're, we actually have a day every year that is devoted. It's called Steve Day.
Okay.
And it's devoted to anyone whose name is Steve, Stephanie, Esteban, any formulation of that name. And Steve has a Steve flight, and he has a Steve drink, and we have stickers that say Steve.
You get a good turnout for that?
Oh, yes, we do. It's a lot of fun.
You get every Steve in town.
Oh, yeah, and everybody that wants to be a Steve. Yes.
When you guys were starting this business, again, congratulations on 10 years. 2016, that was during a period of time when breweries were really popping up all over Cincinnati. It started around maybe 2010. And for a number of years, there were all sorts of new breweries that were coming up. Was that just because there was something in the air? You guys were in a line of groups. And then how do you distinguish yourself when there are so many other options that are all kind of new?
Yeah, that was scary. So we knew that Garrett was a good brewer, and when he went to school, we knew it even more because of, what his instructors said. It felt like it was like a calling. A lot of it was because it's in Columbia, Tusculum. At the time, my entire family lived within a half mile of Streetside Brewery. Our daughter lived in the East End on Worth. Garrett lived on Linwood. We live a half mile from Streetside.
And it's a tight-knit community anyway.
Yes, and we were very invested in what was going on in the community. At the time, I was the president of the community council. We were on the business association. So finding a spot in Columbia, Tusculum was we looked a lot of places. It was great. So, and also the smallness that we thought it would be. We definitely thought we could handle it.
Yeah.
There's good ones out there that are bigger than us that started before us that also helped us.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and then you guys were also, the timing of it, it was really interesting, too. I've talked about this with other people running breweries. The ones that started out before Ohio made it legal to have a tap room along with the brewing operation. Because when you guys started, was a tap room a thing, or was the plan just to make beer and distribute it?
We got into that right at the beginning. We could have a tap room. There was a brewery right around the corner. I still miss it, called Blank Slate.
Blank Slate was my favorite brewery in town.
Yeah. Miss them. And he started out just as a brewery and then added the tap room later. He helped. He was a huge help.
That was Scott, right?
Yes, Scott.
Yes. Scott, I think, was one of the most talented beer guys in the city. I think he's still working in the industry in some degree.
Yes.
But the idea of being able to add in the tap room, that's a whole new revenue stream. You're getting people coming in on a regular basis. It's not about trying to find distribution deals and getting stuff put on shelves and in coolers. You have people coming to you now, which is a whole different business model maybe than what you were expecting when you started.
Yeah. And it's really what... that's what pays the people. That's what pays our employees, is that tap room. So for me, when I hire people, one of the things I say is, when someone walks into this tap room, they're walking into my living room. So consequently, they're walking into your living room. What would you do when somebody walks into your living room? You offer them a drink, you smile, you say hello, you show them where the bathrooms are. If they look like they're confused, you say, how can I help you? So that's, for me, that's the huge thing, is just having people come in and know how much they mean to us. Whenever I book an event, I'm like, you mean something to us. This event, puts, food on my people's table and buys diapers for their babies.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of food, so that's another element. And again, this is in the evolution of a business and ways of finding new revenue streams. There's so many places that do either start out with a restaurant, which is a whole other ball of wax as far as different margins and new costs that are ongoing. You guys, I think, in a really brilliant move, have incorporated a food truck that's just always there. Is that a contractual thing? How does that work with the food truck element? Because now people can show up and have a beer or two and then also still be able to get a bite to eat. There's no reason to leave.
Right. So when we first started, we would just get food trucks, hopefully on the weekends. And I learned quickly that sometimes they don't show up. So we reached out to a gentleman that he actually owns a brick and mortar now. And he was very interested in being our permanent food truck. And he's a trained chef and he knew what he was doing. So we had him for several years. And then he got out of the food truck business. And we've had a couple more. We actually even had our own for a while, because Steve, the production manager, is also a trained chef.
Oh, wow.
So,
well, no wonder he's got a day named after him.
Right. So when our chef that we had it's called Black Dog Grill, when he left us, I just said to Steve, I'm like, just help me order stuff and figure this out. I will never make you cook. And it worked for 2 years, and then it just got to be too much for me, because it was the food truck. I love to cook, but I don't want to own a restaurant. So then we got another. Now we have El Cardinal Taqueria, Mexican. It's delicious. I think they have 4 other trucks that go around the city, but they are permanent to us. And then on Monday nights we have a Little Hill Pizza, and he brings in a wood-fired pizza oven
that he's driving around in.
Yeah, and makes
no kidding.
Makes pizzas from 4 to 9 on Mondays.
And now, did you see a difference in the amount of time that people would stay and the number of people showing up? Pre-food truck and post-food truck.
Yeah, our average check probably went up by about 20%.
That's huge. That's huge, and that's regular business. That's really great.
Yeah.
There's a ton going on with Streetside. You talked about the community itself and the events that you guys that can go on there. You guys do a ton of events in the neighborhood, supporting a number of charities and community programs. We're going to talk about a lot of that and more when we come back from break. You're watching The Working Lunch here on The Crown. Stick around. More from Streetside Brewing coming up. Welcome back to The Working Lunch. I'm Jack Crumley. We are in a segment of the show with the bar rolled out, which means we are in the drinking lunch for the afternoon. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm joined by Kathie Hickey of Streetside Brewery in Columbia, Tusculum. She's brought in some product for us today, and if there's one thing we love on this show, it's product. Kathie, what do we got here?
So today we have, the first one is our New England IPA. It's called Supra.
It's called Supra.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we got that name because that's how our original first 2 brewers greeted each other every morning.
Perfect.
And it was one of the first New Englands in the city that someone did. And it's the first one I ever had, and I still feel like it's the best one I've ever had.
Okay.
This is our best-selling beer.
No
by
kidding.
far, gosh, Garrett probably told me how many batches we've made. I think it's over 500.
People are still into the IPA stuff, huh? That's the beer
a
that
lot.
okay.
Yeah.
Because I believe me, I'm happy to have a drink of this for sure.
Yeah.
I've always been a huge fan of your raspberry beret. That's the beer that I have always been a fan of. Where in the world has your son ever talked about where he comes up with the various recipes and the names? Every name of a beer feels like it's like the trivia teams that are at a bar and Jason and the Answernauts and I can't come up with the names like that.
So some of it is just like modern culture, little, nods and winks to that. At the very beginning, it was, a lot of it was Garrett, and we've had several brewers, Garrett and a brewer. Then when Steve joined our group, he helped. And now we have our branding manager, our creative, Andy Sahoza, helps come up with, I don't know, they just all have different brains.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I have to ask what things mean, and then they laugh and tell me how old I am.
Well, here let's get a pour here on this. You want some too? We got 2 glasses.
Sure.
Here. The names you guys have are, I think, really interesting, and the recipe ideas are interesting. I was reading a list of the awards that you guys have won: Great American Beer Festival, the World Beer Cup, the U.S. Open Beer Championship, Festival of Wood and Barrel Aged Beers. You guys have won a ton of awards for this stuff.
Yeah.
You don't.
All right.
Listen, there's no pressure here. Yeah. I'm gonna enjoy beer on a Friday. That's really good, and I know that IPAs were such a big thing for folks on the beer scene, but I think you guys do a really good job also of making things accessible to people. Tell me about the boring beer.
So that's, we don't have any lager tanks, so if we make a lager, it ties up one of our tanks forever and ever and ever. So one of the things about a lager, especially that one, it's just a boring beer. It's just when people come in and say, I like whatever, Bud Light, Coors Light.
Yeah, they just want something easy.
Miller Lite. Easy drinking, lower ABV. This is the one that we point out. And we created it for those people. And right now, our buddies at Northern Row are brewing it for us because they have lager tanks. Yeah. And they do a great job. They can it for us. It's our only beer that we sell in 12-ounce format in six packs.
Everything else is the bigger can like this here?
Everything else is pints. And that's just, for us, it's boring beer has just been around for 2.5 years. We have some other lighter ones that are different, but that is the beer that we had a bridal party come in last week, and the dad, he's not a craft beer guy.
Yeah, sure.
Well, he drinks boring beer now. So
see, I think
it was good.
That's an interesting thing that you guys do, and that I think a lot of breweries in this sort of craft beer industry do, where you've got the hazy IPAs and the New England IPAs and all that stuff for the beer connoisseur types, but then also knowing that you guys are as mainstream as you are with food and everything else, and bringing families around and kids and dogs, you're going to get people that aren't beer connoisseurs. So here's a little something that you can still drink and not have to worry about if it's something you don't like. It's an easy drinking beer.
Yes, definitely. And we have a couple of those. We have another one called Game Ball that the design on the can changes a little bit depending on what season it is.
Oh, okay. Like a color change sort of thing?
Well, depending on what, it might have orange and black in it during football season, and then yeah, we learned not to do anything more than colors on those.
Okay, well, speaking of colors, this other beer that you brought in has we're gonna finish this with finish that, and this is probably terrible practice for folks actually consuming, but this is the world we're living in here. There's a thing on this beer which is your rainbow, what's it called?
Rainbow Rodeo.
Rainbow Rodeo, and there's candies or something in this?
It's made with rainbow candies that are chewy and hard on the outside.
This seems like a bad idea.
Yeah, we can't.
This is a choking hazard.
Name it, but we make it every year for Pride Month, and it just came out. The cans, we just canned it yesterday.
Okay.
So people can get it in the tap room now. They could get the draft a couple of days ago, but it when you taste it, well, it might taste a little IPA-ish.
Okay, well that's fine.
Well, yeah.
Are the candies coming out?
No. The candies already came out, and they're in feed.
Oh, so it's not like they're floating in the can. That's what I was afraid of.
Oh, no. So anyway, so Rainbow Rodeo is, look at that.
It's a great can. It's a gorgeous can.
Yeah. So we definitely our artist is fantastic. So all right.
Okay. Well, Rainbow Rodeo.
Yep.
Here we go. That's very good. Mm-hmm. I like that a lot. What kind of beer is that?
It's a sour.
It's a sour
ale.
I'm partial to sours.
Yes. So it's and this is a fun one to make. And it's it's a lot similar to a raspberry beret because it's the same sour ale base, but we just put rainbow candies in it instead.
No, that's really tasty, actually.
Yeah.
One of the quotes that you guys have on your website that I wanted to ask you about is it says that beer is a blank canvas that can express many things to many people, which is a very sort of high-minded, artistic mindset, but I think it really is reflected in the different kind of beers you have. How much of that was an idea when you guys first started? Let's really think about this stuff, or did ideas like that just sort of evolve as you were putting your nose to the grindstone and just let's start this business?
So we always knew that because we're small, we could do different things. The larger you get, the less creativity I think that you can express on a regular basis.
Certainly, more freedom when you're smaller.
Right. So we do have that. Like just playing around with the different flavors. We're known for our pastry stouts also, as well as our New Englands and our sours. And some of our pastry stouts are, coconut, chocolate, graham cracker, whatever. I mean, we put all sorts of amazing things in these beers, and they end up being anywhere from 13 to 17% ABV. I mean, they're a heavy hitter.
Yeah. How do you avoid that cough syrup taste when you're into that high ABV? That's a good question.
And the guy that can answer that is brewing right now.
We'll text him later.
But no, they taste, oh gosh, we probably taste the barrels every other week. Mm-hmm. So once they're ready, then they can put in the adjuncts to avoid that thick whatever.
Yeah, sure, that medicine-y kind of taste.
You want it thick.
Yeah.
But yes, a lot of these beers just taste like, we have one that's like a peanut butter fluff pie that tastes like a peanut butter fluff pie.
Talking about the names of things, and also what you guys do being active in the community. You guys are willing to host all sorts of fundraisers. You told me that that's something you really like doing because I think you're a really people person and you like talking to folks. One of the fundraisers I saw that you guys did was to raise money for some sort of animal clinic, and you guys put out a beer that was called Who's a Good Beer, which is such a good name.
So that beer, it benefits staff, Save the Animals Foundation.
Okay.
It's located on Red Bank Road. They have a cat division and a dog division. And this, oh my goodness, we have, I wish I could remember, it's probably been brewed over 100 times.
Okay.
So a portion of every sale in the tap room goes, 15% of every sale in the tap room goes towards Save the Animals, and then also as well as the cans.
Oh, wow.
So, and then what we do is they send us pictures of 4 cats and 4 dogs, and we feature them they're adoptable, and we feature them on the cans, on the labels.
That's really sweet.
So it is. And then once a year we have a reunion of if they're available, the dogs and the cats will all come in.
Well, you guys have a very welcoming front patio out there that I know pets are welcome there too. I think it's a really interesting space you guys operate. We're talking specifically about Streetside Brewery as far as the location that's on Eastern Avenue. But I mean, distribution-wise, you guys are in all 3 states, right? Is it Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana?
Yes. So we self-distribute in Ohio, and then we have a distributor, Craft Concierge in Indiana, and then Nolan Distributing in. It's mainly Lexington and North for Nolan. Although they've kind of gotten out there. People call and want our beer, so we say, we'll call our distributors and tell them where. I mean, we've been as far as, because we can self-distribute in Ohio as far as Cleveland, because I'm from Erie, PA, and if I'm going there and somebody wants beer, it's in my truck and I stop. And Columbus, we have a weekly run to Columbus and Westerville area.
How is from your perspective, having run this brewery now for 10 years, how is the Cincinnati brewery scene? I know there have been a lot of questions about, maybe younger people aren't drinking as much. A lot of breweries were seeing a future with a new product line of the THC seltzers. What's your take on sort of where the scene is right now?
So it is weird. Like a lot of people are talking about how younger people aren't aren't drinking as much. And I think that everything is cyclical. You know, everybody finds something that they love for a while, and then, you know, maybe they move on, you know, depending. It can be anything. It can be seltzers, beer, bourbon, gin, whatever. We find we have to hustle hard to get people to come in the door. But once they're in the door, we can find something for anyone and everyone. You know, we have great NA beers. We don't brew them. We prefer to, you know, try to buy them from local breweries.
Well, you guys are too busy making the high octane stuff.
Yeah. So, but that's really, as long as I think you're committed to the community of it all, people are going to come in. It doesn't, you know, I know it's like our place is it's a drinking establishment, but I mean, not everybody drinks. Kids come in,
right?
And I think the better breweries, the people that are, you know, have a good craft, they'll be around. You know, people used to say, "Don't you think there's too many breweries in Cincinnati?" I'm like, "Well, are there too many restaurants?"
Right.
You know, we have
too many gas stations.
Right. A new one opens every day, and we continue to support them. You know, because obviously there still is a need, or not a need.
Well, there's just a desire. Yeah, sure. Streetside Brewery in Columbia, Tusculum. Kathie Hickey, one of the owners, one of the co-founders. Really great stuff. Swing out there over the weekend. Tomorrow is Tusculum Street Fest. So a couple of blocks of Eastern Avenue are going to be blocked off, but don't let that stop you. There's all sorts of stuff to do. Streetside Brewery is one of my favorites. Kathie, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.